Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. You may have noticed we have a new name. Used to be called the Career Creator Podcast. We are now Disrupt the Defaults. It was intended to be the theme of season 2, but ended up taking it in that direction permanently. So I want to explain a little bit. When this was started, the focus really was on career transitions and people who had taken non traditional career paths. And that still will be a big focus of the podcast, but I wanted to expand the name to also leave room for other areas. So, not just career, but areas related to life and how people are really challenging the status quo and not taking the, traditional route in everyday life things. So that is why you have seen the name change. Still same host, me, Rachel, same great content, lots of good guests coming up, but I did want to point that out. I'm excited today. We have a powerhouse guest, and it's so special that this is the last episode for March, which is Women's History Month, because today's guest is my very first mentor I ever had, who became my mentor in high school. So I will let you hear the full episode. Thanks for being here. And a reminder, if you like what you're hearing, please make sure you rate the podcast, leave a review, and then follow or subscribe depending on where you're listening. Thanks so much for your support. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Rachel. And today we have Ebony Wyatt as our special guest. She is actually my first ever mentor, which I'll tell the story about that in a little bit. And she is so talented. She does a lot of different things. So, Ebony, I will let you share with everyone some of the things you do that we'll talk about today.
Hi, Rachel. First and foremost, thanks for having me. I am Rachel's first mentor, and that'll be a funny story we tell here in a minute. But I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Ebony Wyatt. My hashtag is Mom Wife Boss. I work for General Mills full time. I've been with General Mills for 21 years. It's really hard to believe I've been here this long. In addition to that, about 2 years ago, I started my own business called Ebony Wyatt Speaks, where I teach badass workshops to badass women who want to elevate their career. And in addition to that, I am a mom of 3. So I have a 5-year-old girl, an 8-year-old boy, and an 11-year-old boy. I'm married to William, and we've been married. Ooh, don't put me on the spot. Oh man, like 13 years, I think. Yeah, I think that's right. And I'm also leading in the community. I'm one of the executive co-chairs of Next Up Twin Cities. Next Up is formerly known as Network of Executive Women. And I'm also the chair of the University of Arkansas Dean's Alumni Advisory Board for the College of Business. So that's just a little bit about who I am.
Thank you, Ebony. So as you can see, she is very busy. So I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for taking the time.
No problem.
And I want to tell you a story about how we crossed paths. We met when I was a teenager. I was in high school, and my mom reached out to Ebony. We are from the same hometown in Arkansas. And she reached out and asked her to be my mentor. And I don't know if do you remember the details? I don't even know what she said.
Yeah, I do remember some of the details. So go even further back. So I knew little Rachel when she was a little girl, right? I was a few years older than Rachel. Our families are friends. Rachel's grandfather actually gave me my first job. He owned a car wash in my neighborhood. And when it was time to go back to school, I'd go work for him for a couple of weeks, make some money for some school clothes. So we go way back, even further back than Rachel may even know. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that he gave you your first job. So I'm learning.
Job, right? So your grandpa, has done a lot of good in our community. And so when your mom, I think I saw her at Howard Elementary School, which is where I went to elementary school, and I think I was back there volunteering or something. And she said, Ebony, I need your help. My daughter Rachel's doing really well. Where'd you go? You went to Duke undergrad. I think I met Rachel like before, maybe like when I say met, like got introduced as your mentor maybe a couple years before you went to college. Is that right, Rachel?
That's right. Yeah. And you played a role in the college I picked, but I'll talk about that.
Rachel had it going on, right? So when you are like, from where we're from, there's not a lot of folks that look like us that have these kind of opportunities. So Rachel was it a Gates Millennium Scholar? What was it back
Mm-hmm.
then?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
So Rachel had it going on, y'all. And her mom just wanted someone to provide her some guidance. And because I knew of Rachel and knew what she was doing, just kind of hearing her name in the community, I knew I wanted to help and I knew I wanted to be able to provide whatever guidance I could, because I remember being in that same spot where you're smart, you've done all the things you have to do to get to the next level, which at that point was college, but you didn't have a lot of info or insight, right? So you're just kind of making decisions blindly. So when your mother asked me to be your mentor, I was so excited to help. So Rachel, that's what I remember. Now, when we were
Okay.
prepping, you told me that I'd like put you on your first flight to come visit me in Charlotte. I don't
Yes.
remember that at all.
Yes, you got me a ticket to come out to visit you in Charlotte. You were living in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time. And I remember it was so much fun. We hung out. And I love that from day one, you treated me just like a member of your family. And we went to eat sushi. It was my first time ever eating sushi. I remember that because I was like,
I feel
oh,
like that's a young rite of passage is to eat sushi for the first time.
yes, we had that experience. We ate a lot of good food. I still remember some of the places we went to, but something that stood out while I was in North Carolina, I fell in love with the North Carolina blue sky. And I said to myself, I have to go to college here. I have to come back and go to college in North Carolina. And so I went to look up schools. I found Duke. This is not how you should choose a college, but I really just like their website. I was like, oh, they have a nice website. Just
But that's real, Rachel. I mean,
it's
it's
real.
what it is, right?
I was 17. It was real. And I said, they're great at academics, they're great at athletics. And I really wanted the mix because I made good grades, but I really like to have fun. I just like to have fun and I like to do my schoolwork. And so I wanted a place where I could do both. And I picked Duke, and a huge part of that, if I had never gone to North Carolina to visit you, I don't know if they would have been on my radar, if I would have felt like I needed to be in North Carolina. So you have played a bigger role in my story than you maybe even knew.
And then fast forward, after your first job out of college, then you came to work with me at General Mills.
Yep.
And so our story just continues. And I was just happy for that. I wanted you to be closer to me. I wanted you to have a good experience. I knew that General Mills was a great company. And so I'm grateful. How long did you work there, Rachel? I don't remember.
I was there 2 years until I went back to school. I went to grad school and I switched career fields. But I have to say, still till today, it's been probably almost 10 years since I worked there. And it's still one of my favorite places I've ever worked. I still have close friends that I met there. So it is a really special experience. And I'm just so thankful my mom reached out to you. I'm thankful you said yes. And you are not, Ebony is not a normal mentor. She's a super mentor. She's like, show me your outfit you're wearing to the interview. Let me see if that's going to work. She
We are not going to leave any stone unturned. Okay. We're going to look the part. We're going to be rehearsed, have some great interview answers. We're not playing around, Rachel.
Yeah, she's like, what does your resume look like? She wanted to make sure that I was successful in whatever I did. And I think that says a lot about who Ebony is, because she had told me when we met she had other mentors before, I mean, mentees. And so this wasn't something new. It was just part of who she was. You were in your, early 20s at the time.
Yeah.
So this was just something you've always done. It's not because of a certain title, it's just who you are. So I appreciate that. And I'm curious, do you know maybe why that is a part of you or where you get that from?
I think a lot of it is just growing up in the community I did. Everybody was willing to help. Everybody was willing to support. And if they didn't, it's so funny. I can think of your mom as my grandmother. So when I needed help, when I needed support, like she was able to go find it. She may not have been able to help me on every detail, but she
Yeah.
knew where to go.
Mm.
So I think a lot of that resourcefulness and a lot of that community, like taking care of one another, is just where we're from.
Yeah.
So there's different things you get from different places. We were from a very industrial community within Arkansas, not super diverse, but there was some diversity, not a ton of opportunity. But man, the people that were there, if you were doing well, they loved on you. And so that was just an extension of me paying it forward and just really emulating what I saw in my own community. And I didn't, at the time, I didn't realize it was special until
Mm.
I was probably 10 years into my career and I was working for this VP. And he said, Ebony, come here for a second. And he said, who are all these people that are coming by your desk? And I was like, those are my mentees, like, duh, He was like, wait, all those people that come here all day, those are your mentees? I'm like, yeah, like, that's just what I do. He was like, Ebony, that's absolutely incredible. I've never seen anybody mentor all these people. He said, but you work for me, so I know you get your work done too. And it's just who I am. And it now, it's become a part of my brand, I think. But I just want to make sure we're successful.
Yeah.
And if it's 5 minutes, if it's 30 minutes, if it's after work and you need somewhere to go cry or whatever it may be, I just see that as my role and part of my responsibility, especially being in these corporate spaces where there are not a lot of people of color and where a lot of us are doing this for the first time and our families may have not been down the same path. And so my job is to help make sure I'm making the path a bit easier for you versus you learning everything the hard way.
Yeah.
So I feel that is part of my responsibility as, too much is given, much is required. And I truly feel that and I try to live that every day.
And it sounds like I agree with you. I didn't really realize how special of a community we were raised in until, I don't know, the last few years probably. But I think something about being raised with that community care, you crave it. You need that. You want that. And I remember my grandpa, the one you worked for, saying as I was growing up, one of the things he said was he always wanted to leave an inheritance for his children's children. And he always said, every time you move up to a new level, you always reach back and bring someone with you. So those were the two things that he was always talking about. So it was just normal to see people taking care of each other. And then we moved away, and that is not how the world works.
No, it sure is not.
At all.
It sure is not. But we'll keep trying to do our part to sprinkle a little sunshine.
Yeah. Well, you're spreading a lot of sunshine. And I'm like, oh, we have to one day. I would love to meet some of your other mentees. I'm like, ooh, we should have an Ebony Mentee party.
Well, hey, that works. I love a good party.
It would probably, seriously, I'm not exaggerating, probably be like 100 people in the room or more. I don't know. That number's probably low.
That number's probably low.
Yeah.
But that would be a fun time.
It would. So
you know what they call those, Rachel? Funerals. So I don't know if I really want one of those.
Well, hey, the theme of season 2 of the podcast is disrupting the default. So we're going to disrupt the normal get together.
Disrupt the default. I want my flowers today. Not what I did. Thank you.
Why don't we celebrate people right now? I want you to hear all that. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I'm like, any excuse to celebrate's a good one. You talked about helping people along the path and making it easier for them. I'd love to hear a little more about your career path and how, diversity and just that push to make things easier for people has played a role.
Yeah. So I've been, again, with my company for about 21 years. I started as an intern at General Mills. I majored in finance in college. I knew, after I decided I wasn't going to law school, I knew I would do something in business. And so I interned with General Mills, and I didn't even know these types of jobs existed. So I'm in sales. My job is to ensure that our General Mills products are on the shelves at retailers such as Target, Meijer, Walmart, wherever it may be, wherever you buy your groceries, and partnering with those retailers to ensure we have products, we have those at the right price points and all those things. So I did this internship and I was like, this job's kind of cool. And I kind of like these people too. They're really smart and I'm learning something new, but it feels like easy and natural. And so did the internship. And I do remember though I feel like I was the only intern at the time in our office. I was in Arkansas at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other person of color in the office.
Mm.
And I remember feeling like I didn't fit and I didn't belong. And I remember going home and I called my grandmother and I was crying. I was like, I want to quit. I hate this. I don't feel like I fit in. I feel so different. And of course, my grandmother being who she is, she's like, I'll call you back. So she ends up calling what today is one of my mentors, who's actually the mayor of my hometown, George McGill.
Mm.
And at the time he owned an insurance agency. So he was an entrepreneur businessman. And he called and gave me the pep talk of my life and just told me how I belong there, how, I got hired with the same credentials as everybody else. Like I belong there and that I needed to pull myself together and finish out that internship strong and that it would just be okay. He's like, I've hit this in my career too. I promise you, Ebony, you're going to figure it out. Everything will be fine. So I go back, I finished the internship, ended up getting the offer, ended up really liking the job overall and the company and the people and all those things. But, as I look back, oh, I mean, it's been 21 years. It's really hard to believe. I'm only, 25 years old. But just, being for a long time, still feeling like I didn't fit, right? Even, I think probably 15 years in, I still felt like I didn't fit, but I knew that I was meant to be there.
Yeah.
And I knew the organization had cared about the things that mattered to me. And at some point I would figure it out, and I'd figure out if I fit. And I think part of it was a shift in my mindset around, like, I do belong.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm different. Yes, I'm the only one that looks like me in a lot of the rooms that I walk into. But guess what? I'm supposed to be here. And really pivoting that difference from a negative into a positive. Well, guess what? When I show up with this Southern accent in Minnesota and with my brown self, I know everybody knows who I am.
Yeah.
And so I just changed my mentality around it. And then I kind of approached it like a politician a little bit. Like, I was like, I'm the mayor. Like, everybody knows me just from looking at me and hearing my voice.
You can't hide.
I can't hide, right? I'm down the hallway talking to myself. That's Ebony's voice. Yes, that is me. But it really took me pivoting my own point of view around just like, I think a lot of pain and shame to like power and purpose, feeling
power.
like I really did belong and there was a purpose for me being there. And so now I look back on my mentor journey and it's really about making people feel comfortable and welcome and like they belong. And sharing my experience so they don't feel like they're the only one with these types of feelings. And so, yeah, as I look back over my career, I was the first Black woman sales director for General Mills, and hopefully we'll continue to break glass ceilings beyond that. And, it is still sometimes when it's really lonely, there's some places that I just don't feel like I fit, but I get over it pretty quickly. And I know that there's a value that I can add both with my customers, with the teams that I lead, with the people that I get to interact with every day. So I found a way to get to confidence really quickly, especially as I rotate to different positions. And I truly believe I belong. And I have skills and abilities that are differential. And my job is to just make sure I am creating that same confidence in others.
Yeah. And you do that. You're talking about your pep talk you gave me that pep talk my freshman year of college when I was like, I can't do this. It's too hard. You're like, nope. You can do it and you're going to do it.
You're going to do it and you're not going to quit. And guess what? You're not at Duke because you are less than or special. Like, you are academically inclined to be here, and guess what? You can do it. It's different. Maybe you never had to study before, but you belong. I do remember some of those conversations. I'm like, come on now, Rachel, we've come too far to turn around. You were a Duke, girlfriend. You are not coming home without a degree.
Yeah.
We all run into those roadblocks where we just feel like we can't do it. And all it takes is somebody on the other side of the phone or the screen or the table or whatever to say, yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I believe you. I believe in you. And I know you can do
it. I love that. And you talked about being the first, being the only. We see those headlines pretty often nowadays where it's like, hey, the first person to do this or the only, but we're still seeing them. So we still haven't touched all the places we need to. And I love that they're celebrating people doing this, but sometimes I wonder, do people know how hard that can be, or do people give the support that's needed too for that person in that role? And we talked about kind of lonely only. You said something that shifted for you is you get to confidence quickly now. So do you think about that lonely only and then getting confidence in that area? Yeah. What has your journey been there?
Oh my goodness. And I used to feel like the black sheep, literally and figuratively. But again, there's purpose in me being here. And honestly, my confidence has grown a ton, especially in the last 2 years as I've started my own business, where I'm helping women and people of color to really own their power, articulate their strengths, really get clear about what they're good at. And it's really helped me to find this new level of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've always been a confident person from even being a little girl. I remember just like I wasn't afraid to ask for what I wanted. I was used to a lot of attention because I was this little mixed child growing up in this Black family and Black neighborhood. And so I always looked different, but I wasn't afraid of that. And so over time, I think just knowing what every time I did something, looking back and saying, okay, you did that. You didn't think you could do it when you got there, but like looking back, you did it, you've been successful. And then this new level is really about knowing that you are truly capable of the next level and that you can do this thing here at, at whatever company you are, somewhere else or for yourself.
Yeah.
So funny. I used to hear about, I used to read all these articles about Black women exiting corporate America at an alarming rate to be entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And I could never see myself in that space. I was like, yeah, I like my job, still
Yeah.
like my job. But it's really around finding that confidence to know that you are capable of taking care of yourself and your family.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And so it's just like, oh, I see what these ladies have tapped into because it is the most freeing thing I've ever done, right? Is to run my own business. And I'm grateful that I'm able to do that and work my corporate job. But it does something to you mentally. It
Mm.
helps you to shift. And who I am today and who I was 2 years ago is very different.
Wow.
And so that used to scare me, like to think, oh my goodness, I could be an entrepreneur. And I still don't have a short-term goal of being a full-time
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, but I can see my way to it now.
Ah.
And I can see that I have many skills and abilities. And before I took on this entrepreneurship thing, I think I boxed myself in. And so I'm like, man, I can go speak for a living. I'm a great storyteller. I
You
remember the
are.
days when I used to look at my leaders and say, man, when will I ever have enough stories in my arsenal to really move people? And now I'm one of those people. It's hard to believe, but so to me, it's just kind of finding whatever it takes to like build your own confidence. And for me, it was entrepreneurship that really built this new level of confidence. And being able to say to my leaders, I can do this. I am clear that I can do this.
Yeah.
And not that fake, I'm clear, I can crush this, but like
Maybe.
real, yeah, maybe, I think so. No, no, no. I got this. And if you want something to be done, put me on it. I will get it done. It's just a different level of freedom for me. I think that's been I feel like that's my mantra for this year. It's like freedom.
That's a good word of the year.
It's a good one. So it just kind of came up for me in the last few weeks, but I feel like that's my word for 2023.
You're reminding me of this phrase I like to say when I talk to people about their jobs. I say, you take you everywhere you go. So
Ooh.
you are the differentiator. You're taking you. So if you're not right, you have to take care of yourself regardless of what company you're attached to, whether you work for yourself, whether you're getting a paycheck. You're going to take you in every room you enter. So spend some time. You're worth it. Invest in yourself. And I love what you're saying about building that confidence and how you have to really invest in your strengths, your brand, who you are as a person. And entrepreneurship has done that for you. So I'd love to hear more about your entrepreneur journey. At the beginning, you said you can teach us all how to be a badass, and I know I want to be one. So tell us more about your business and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so I always knew that when I shared my story, it moved people, whether it moved people to action or moved people to think about their own story in a different way. And so I always knew there was some untapped skill around speaking and sharing my story. And so when the pandemic happened, all of a sudden I'm at home and I've got more time on my hands. I'm not commuting. I'm not traveling for work. I'm not doing any of those things. And so I said, well, this is the time to start. Otherwise, I'm never going to do this. but I thought I would be doing keynotes and speeches, right? And it quickly pivoted. So I had set up my infrastructure for my business and I'd spent all this money and I was like, I'm not making any dollars. So I'm in the hole.
Yeah.
And any successful business person knows that's not a good model, right? And so I was talking to a girlfriend of mine and she said, well, Ebony, every time you teach a workshop at General Mills, it hits. Everybody
Mhm.
loves it. You seem super comfortable. Why don't you teach a workshop from home on Zoom? And I'm like, actually, that's a great idea. And I had already had a talk that I had did at the University of Arkansas a few years ago called Building Your Badass Brand. So I took that talk, moved it into a PowerPoint type workshop format, and put it out on my social media. And one evening, I had 22 of my closest friends sign up, and we had an
Oh, wow.
experience no other.
Yeah.
We were on for about 2 hours. I knew there was something special there. And then we probably finished at 8 o'clock. My phone pinged to 10:30 that night from
Oh,
my friend saying, Ebony, we knew you had something special. We
yeah.
knew you did all these things. We've never seen you in this light. And it's something magical there.
Oh,
And
I
keep
love
going.
that.
Just keep going. And we're gonna be at the next one, whatever the next thing is. And so
Oh,
I knew that I had something there. So I took Building Your Badass Brand, made it into a two-part series. You do a little bit of homework in between, and then you come back and present who Brand Rachel is, for example. And then I give live feedback. And it is the most beautiful thing to watch people really do some self-assessment and come back stronger and more powerful and more declarative around who they are. And so after I did that, I'm like, I need another one. So what else do women and people of color, what else do they need? What skills do I want to see them develop? Well, guess what? Networking, right? We talk a lot
mm,
about the importance of networking,
yep.
but it's rarely a skill that is taught. And so how can I help based on what I've learned, based on what I've seen from some of the power networkers in my circle, how can I teach that to others? So I created that one. And then about a year in, I moved to trademark both of those. So I have Building Your Badass Brand and Building Your Badass Network as a trademark. I have lots of ideas for the future, but I went from teaching those classes to individuals to now teaching those classes to corporations. And it's been a beautiful thing to watch and see how one, my powerful network has really opened doors for me to come in and support their associates at their organization. And I still think there's something really, really special about the work. And I always say it's not frame breaking, it's simple concepts. We're really helping people see a roadmap for whether it's building your own badass
Hmm.
brand or building your network. How do you do it? What do you think about? What do you say? Sometimes it's just giving people some simple tools that they're able to digest. I think that can really make a difference.
Oh, yeah. And helping them feel comfortable, which is something through you being a mentor for so long. That's something that you're really good at, helping people see the way, creating a path and the tools for them, and then helping them get where they want to be. So you have an entire business, you have a very high level job, three children. I mean, how do you do it all?
And no, it is a lot. So I've got two little secrets. Well, I'll say three. Number one, I have a great partner in my husband William, who truly wants me to be my best every day
Mm,
and creates the space for me to do that. And so every day we're blocking and tackling and figuring out where these kids need to be and who's doing dinner and how we will fill in the gaps. The second piece is my mom has been here for the last 2 years, and talk about a real unlock. She's been living with us. It is great to have her here. She is so helpful. And I know that's extra special. I know a lot of people just don't have,
yeah.
their mother to come in and support them, especially in all the things that I do. And then the last piece is the powerful no, honey. I am not doing
Ooh.
anything that doesn't add value to my brand. I'm not doing a lot of things that don't put dollars in my pocket or create space or create connection for me. So I've been really clear in terms of here's the type of speaking things I will do, here's what I won't do.
Mm,
Um, and I am not trying to fit a square peg into a round hole anymore. If it doesn't feel right, nope, thank you for thinking of me. Sometimes I'll recommend someone else. Other times I'll just say, sorry, I'm unavailable. And that's a skill in itself because a lot of people just, sometimes it doesn't have to just be no. It's like, no, I'm not
yeah.
available. Or no, actually, that's not my subject matter. But thank you for thinking of me, and you just move on. But thankfully, I have folks in my life who are committed to help me succeed and help me to do more, and I'm grateful for that. And even these little people in my life, they know when mommy's down in that office with the door shut in the evening, she's teaching the workshop to those ladies, and they
Oh,
expect that. And they know I work at General Mills. And part of it is I want them to see a mom and a dad that they can be proud of, both individually and collectively.
yeah.
Right. I want them to see the dad can cook and clean as well as he can work and, be on his computer and making deals. Right. And I want them to see that mom is a hustler and she can make money. She can impact people. She has all these cool friends. And oh, by the way, she's still a great mom to us and giving us opportunities.
What kind of like freedom and options that's going to give them to
Oh
see
my,
that?
that is the thing that I want them to have. I want them to know what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship, both with a
Yeah.
partner and with a company, and
Ooh,
with yourself, and with
that's deep.
yourself.
That's
Okay.
deep right there.
I
With
want them
your
to know,
company, with
yes,
yourself. Oh, I love
and with
that.
your partner, right? And I want them to know that you can do a lot of different things. You don't have to be put inside of a box. And I don't care what somebody else's family may do. This is what works in our family. But I just want to be a positive role model to them. I want my daughter to be brave and confident and a boss lady. I want my boys to be empathetic and caring about other people's feelings. I'm trying to make sure I am role modeling what I wanted growing up and some of the things that worked really well when I was growing up and really avoiding some of those things that maybe didn't work so well when I was growing up.
So, the theme of disrupting defaults, you are doing that in every way. And I love that you're saying, I have great friends. I spend time with my family. I love my family. I have a supportive husband. I do well in my corporate job and I still have a business that makes me feel confident and I get to help people and I mentor people. And I've felt this a lot of times. My friends feel this way, other people I talk to. A lot of us aren't necessarily aspiring to get to these high levels of leaderships in our organizations because we're afraid, well, I have to give up all those other things I love. And you are very much, you're not doing that. You're saying, I'm saying no to all the things that don't matter so I can say yes to all these things that are super important to me. So, do you have any tips or thoughts around that for people who are thinking about those decisions and may feel like it's going to put them in a box or they can't have a full life if they decide to really become a leader in their corporation or to get to that higher level of leadership?
Oh, I just talked to one of my colleagues, one of my female mentee colleagues about this today. If we continue to step off the path, the top will never look the way we want it to look. It will never feel the way we want it to feel. It will never be diverse and inclusive and empathetic and inspirational if we keep making a choice to do something different. That's the first thing I'll say, especially to the young women who say, man, that's a lot. I don't want all that. I want to, no, you can have it all. So I think part of it is that's the thing that's keeping us held down, right? We've been taught that we can't have it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's keeping the world really male dominated.
And we've
And
seen examples of people who are doing it a different way. And we're like, oh, we don't want to do it that way. They're
yeah,
not, yeah, I don't want to
I
be like
don't
that.
want to be the the female leader who has too many male dominant traits. I don't want to be that. I want to be beautiful. I want to be thoughtful. I want to be caring. I want to be approachable. I want to be powerful. I want to be bold. I want to care for people. Those are what I want. I don't want to be nose driving, overly driven, overly confident, one that doesn't care about others. I want to be I want to be a female leader.
Yeah.
And not the one that's trying to be the man. Like, that's not what I aspire to. Right. But if that's all, for a long time, I had all my role models had those really high male dominant traits. And I remember one of the male leaders was talking to me. I said, what do you expect me to be when that's all you put in front of me is role models? And it stopped him in his tracks. He was like,
Yeah.
damn, okay, Ebony. Yeah. I said, so let's just be clear. These are all the women who have been promoted. Here are the traits that they have, and I'm just role modeling those traits, but it's not okay. Well, it's probably not okay because I'm a Black woman. Let's just be right.
Yeah.
Comes
Yeah.
across a little bit different because of who I am. But I found out, and honestly, I tell the story a lot because it's really important, especially for my white male allies who might be listening. I had this friend, this white male friend, we were buddies, like really tight. And he helped me to break down some of that hardness that I was coming across with at work, that hardness and that harshness. And he was like, Ebony, the Ebony that showed up at the retreat this weekend, she needs to come to work.
Oh.
She was lovable, she was fun, she was funny, she was just bright. He's like, the Ebony at work is a little scary and she's not approachable. And he said, now, Ebony, I want to be clear. I know, and me and him had these kind of conversations. I know I'm a white male.
Yep.
I know I'm a little crazy and outside the box myself. I know you can't be me. He said, I'm not asking you to be me, but I'm asking you to bring some of that other Ebony to work. And all I needed was permission for whatever reason. One, I was role modeling what I'd seen, right? And then two, I was also role modeling what I was told by my grandmother. And she had all the best intentions, but she didn't have the context of the environment I was operating in. You got to be
true.
10 times better. You can't step outside the line. You got to be perfection. I was trying to be all that, and it was just killing me.
It's what you saw, it's what you were taught, but also it's what was rewarded.
100%. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then at some point, as a Black woman, I couldn't get the feedback I needed to make adjustments.
I see.
So that's when they sent me to an executive coach. And honey, that white lady changed my life.
So executive coaching helped you kind of get to that next level and feel comfortable with bringing your full self.
She gave me the real feedback on what they were saying, that what they wouldn't tell me to my face. Right?
Oh, that's powerful.
Gave
Yeah.
me some skills and some tools to help me work through it and to help me modify and flex. And so many times, Rachel, I know I'm all over the place here, but we talk about bringing your authentic self or bringing your whole self to work. And it's like, you have a range of who you are. We
Do.
talk about
Yep.
the way I show up for the little church ladies is slightly different than the way I show up for the boardroom. It's slightly different than the way I show up for my husband. But that's still Ebony. All
Yeah.
these dimensions are still me, right? But I think sometimes because we don't get the right context and you're new in this environment, you hear bring your whole self, like, wait, whoa, your whole self in the environment you're operating in.
Yeah, we need to add that disclaimer.
They didn't want 22-year-old weekend Ebony to come to work.
Yeah.
At that time, I needed some time to mature and understand the environment in which I was operating in. And so I always tease, yeah, it used to be weekend Ebony and work Ebony, and they were two different people. Now, as a almost 42-year-old woman that's a mother, entrepreneur, a corporate leader, all these things, I don't have the capacity to be two different people anymore.
That sounds exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It is. Yeah.
And so I'm not doing that anymore. So some days I feel like, am I going too far? Like I was on a panel last week and we were talking about unicorn spaces. I'm like, well, it's like, what brings you joy? And I was like, music. She was like, what kind of music? I was like, rap music. And I said, but specifically trap music.
Yes.
In front of a whole corporate audience. And another, like, having, what is trap music, Ebony? Hey, you go Google it. You can figure it out. But, I would have never told a broad audience that I like trap music. I was just too busy hiding and trying to fit in. And now I'm like, this is who I am.
Well, I mean, just think about it, Ebony. 10 years ago, I entered the full-time corporate world in 2012, and I had to kind of straighten my hair to come to work. So it's not like it's been that long since you did have to leave part of yourself at home.
I still haven't, tried braids at work. Now I wear my waves all day because they're more my hair is more wavy than curly. But I still, there's still some things that I'm like, I don't know how that would be received, So even as much freedom as I have today, there's still some things that I'm not willing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. You have to do what you're comfortable with. I don't need anybody touching my hair. I don't need all the comments. I've got ways that I'm fighting every day anyway. Right. I don't want that extra. that
Mm-hmm.
extra layer.
Yeah.
So there's still, even as I work to bring my whole self to work, I mean, it's still a work in progress. I am still a work in progress.
I love that someone gave you the feedback. We saw the fun and the light and the laughter that you bring, and we want some of that in the workplace because I think sometimes we show up to work and you think you have to be serious for people to like you, to promote you. And I've noticed in my current role is probably the most I've really shown up as myself as well. This is what you get. This is who I am. And it's fun because now my team knows I have to have fun at work. I like to laugh at work. And it has made work so much more enjoyable because we have a lot more
Yeah,
fun. Because I'm like, that is part of my brand is that I like to have fun and I like to laugh. That's part. And I'm proud of
yeah,
it. I'm not ashamed of that. It doesn't mean I'm not smart. It doesn't mean I don't deliver results. It
yeah,
just means I'm going to do it and I'm going to enjoy it while I'm doing it.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's the beautiful part. That's the part why people feel like they can't have it all
Mm,
because you don't enjoy what you're doing.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I know, folks like you're still at General Mills. I sure am because I still enjoy these people. I still enjoy the brands. I still enjoy working with these really brilliant folks. Like
Yeah.
iron sharpens iron, right? And we have fun. If we were all a bunch of stick in the mud, I wouldn't like that either. I'm like, girl, maybe you should start by finding somewhere you really like to work where you can feel like you can be yourself. Um, yeah, I mean, again, I'm talking about it as if it's easy, and we both
Oh,
know,
we
Rachel, and I
both,
know
yeah.
this is not easy. This is
Yeah.
20 years of work,
Mm-hmm.
20 years of trying to feel like I fit and I belong. 20 years of feeling like I want to bring the maximum impact. I want to be myself, all those things, right? And so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it happened overnight. And it was an iterative process. And I'm still on my learning journey every day. I'm
Mm-hmm.
figuring out something new about myself and even the trap music thing. If I would have did that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to sleep for 2 nights. Like, did I go too far?
Oh, yeah. Just thinking about it.
Yeah. The next day I was like, did I go too far? Maybe, but I don't care. Right. So like, okay,
Right.
cool. We're moving on versus holding on to that stress. I mean, you've got if you're gonna operate and have a full whole life at a certain level
Mm-hmm.
and you aspire to be an executive leader, you have to get over things quickly.
Mm, yeah,
You
that's
have to
true.
you have to get through the information. You have to know and anticipate what's coming, and you got to be able to move on.
That is something as we were talking, because you've seen me at every phase of my career before I even had a career. You knew me. So you've seen me at all the phases. And I was saying one thing that's helped me in the workplace is to figure out how to deal with my emotions at work. Like, what does that mean to befriend your emotions at work? How can you really, you're not ignoring them, but also you're not going to let them get you off track. And so
Mhm.
for me, one thing I've been thinking about at work is when it comes to moving on, I'm like, what are we actually trying to get done here?
Mhm.
And how can we get to that end result? Maybe sometimes we're not going to like certain people, certain things, but it's like, what's the goal we're working towards and how can we achieve the goal and kind of taking it a step back. And I stopped asking myself as much at work, do I actually like this person as like a friend I'd have outside of
Yeah.
work? It's more of, can we work together well? And some people would spend so much time with him outside of work and other people, they're just your
Yeah.
work friends. And that's okay.
Yeah. I used to spend so much energy wanting to be liked.
Yeah.
And now all I want you to do is respect me at the end of the day. Just respect me.
Yes. Oh
So
my
we ain't
gosh.
got to be best friends. We ain't got to hang out. You don't have to come up in here. I don't have to come to your home. And now, and I used to not understand leaders who wouldn't invite you into their home. No, I understand now.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
want a bunch of crazy random, like
Same.
if I wouldn't spend time with you, if I wouldn't pay to take you to dinner, I don't really want you up in my space.
Right? Your home is
And
sacred. Yeah.
yeah, and so now the older I get, the more experiences I have, I understand and I see it from a different lens. But yeah, I used to want to be everybody's friend.
Yep.
I want to be
Same.
liked. And I just want you to know what you can expect from me. That's all I really need today. You need me to deliver a result. I need you to have faith that Ebony will deliver the result that we've agreed upon.
I like that.
Whether that result is Ebony, I need you to coach this team and help to lift them up. Whether it's, hey, I need you to go deliver this result. hey, I need you to go build these types of relationships. Let's just be clear on what the deliverable is, and let's take the feelings out of it.
Yeah, you go from wanting to be liked and understood to wanting to be, I call it, respected and accepted.
Ooh.
Keep the likes. You don't even have to understand everything about me. I don't always understand myself, if I'm being honest, but you got to respect me and accept, how I'm going to show up. Like, don't actively make it uncomfortable for me to show up the way I am.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Don't actively make me uncomfortable.
Yeah. And when we talk about boundaries, that's part of what we mean too. Boundaries is not just what time you're getting off the computer. It's also, this is behavior that does not work for me. And this is how you're making me feel. And we got to do something different. So let's talk about what that looks like.
And, and the other thing I want everybody to hear is sometimes we assume the other person won't be receptive.
That's true.
So I tell you too, even as you climb, even as you build, I had this one mentor that gave this speech on creating raving fans. Even when you have a bunch of raving fans, every once in a while, somebody's not going to drink the Kool-Aid. Somebody's not going to believe in you. Somebody is not going to be a fan of yours. And you got to figure out how to just keep it moving and not be deterred by that one person.
Oh, yeah. Don't let one person mess up your entire experience of working there. So the tough conversations, I think we often avoid them, but then it ruins our work experience. It makes it harder to be there. It doesn't fix the problem. Just have the convo.
Yeah, have it. Just have it. Don't avoid it. Just have it.
Yeah.
And I think too, the other thing, and I don't know, I'm not on a stereotype, but I'm going to generalize here. I have found that some of these men that come across so strong are some of the most open to feedback. And they can move on from it really quickly. They can take it, digest it, say, okay, I hear you. What can I do differently? And then we don't have any issues. I think sometimes as women, we can hold on to it longer. And so we're expecting other people to have that same experience or that same response.
Yeah.
So I will say some of these really powerful, maybe overpowering, or maybe sometimes over, very confident, aggressive, strong willed men, when I've said, hey, that I don't like the way that makes me feel, they've been like, oh, no, I care enough about you to make a modification.
I see.
So I share that too, because some of the scariest ones are the ones that are like, oh, shoot, like, no way. I am here to support you. And if that's not working, we're going to figure out a different way to do it.
Okay. So they've adjusted. And it seems like, I think you said this earlier, at one point in your career, you weren't getting the direct feedback you needed. You needed to hear what people were saying when you're not in the room. What are people saying about you? And I think sometimes at work, people think they're giving the feedback, but they're skirting around it. So they're not saying it in a way that person gets it and understands what needs to change. So from what you're saying too, it also sounds like you're like, I'm giving very clear and specific feedback and guidance on what's not working and what needs to change.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's just when you are different, when you are the only woman of color, when you are the only whatever, and still in the blank. I think people are afraid, like, if I give them this tough feedback, they might leave. And it's like, no, just give me the feedback. And so it has been so interesting how it has been hard to get the feedback over time. People have just been afraid to say it for whatever reason. I'm grateful for that coach that came at the right time in my career. We did a 360, and sometimes use a 360. I know a lot of organizations have 360 feedback. Some people, they'll get really, bold behind that computer. And so they're much more likely to tell you how they feel. And I've tried to be really, one of the things I do as a leader is be really explicit around the feedback to say, hey, this is a small thing, but it limits your effectiveness. Let me tell you how it shows up. Like, hey, this is not a derailer. Let's just be clear. But every once in a while, you ask for a lot of validation when you have the response, you have the right solution, right? But then it undercuts like how confident you are in your ideas and your solution, And I said, here's a couple of examples. I remember having this conversation with one of my female direct reports, and she was like, Ebony, I do that all the time. And You got it going on, sis. If you just make this little modification
Mm-hmm.
and be clear, sometimes you do want feedback. Sometimes you do want input, but other times you know what the right path forward
Yeah.
is. And so I've been really trying to be clear with my direct reports and the people that I lead around, like, here's the thing. Doesn't show up all the time, or, ooh, you got to be really careful with this. And so I do it. My mid-year point is where I spend a lot of energy. And they're like, you did all this? I'm like, because this might be your only true strengths and opportunities assessment you get in the next
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
Right. And this is an N of one. I am one person, his Ebony's feedback. But because I spend a lot of time with you, I want you to have it. I think a lot of that's because I did not get that kind of feedback.
Oh, yeah. So you're paying it forward. And I love what you pointed out for the audience when Ebony talked about a derailer. So that's something that can ruin your career path, can kind of take you off the track, keep you from getting promoted. That's a thing that's a big thing that gets in the way. And then other things are small, they make you less effective. You may still get the next role, you may still get where you want to go, but you probably aren't going to have the experience you want to have.
Yeah, those derailers are those big things that are going to throw you off your path.
Yeah.
And so, for example, if you have a crazy temper and you're going to go off on somebody, that's a derailer,
Yeah.
right? But if you get frustrated and I can kind of see it on your face, sometimes that might be just something we need to work on. Let's work on our facial expressions. But like, if you are a finance person and your information is inaccurate, that's probably a derailer. Like, it's important for
Yes.
your
Yes.
information to be accurate, right? Because that could impact the results of the organization. But yeah, that's a good one, Rachel, because every organization has its lingo.
Yeah, they're all different. And you used to tell me when I was younger, you'd say, don't get in your own way. And that is something that I remembered. I have not forgotten that. I've told it to other people because I think that's huge, especially as you're getting started. When you think about these derailers, these career limiters, sometimes it's us. Sometimes it's you are the problem.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yep, getting out of your own way. That's half the battle. But that's half the battle at every stage.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's a mental game,
Mm.
right? It's like you did great. Everybody thinks you did great, and you think you just failed. And it's like, wait, oh, girlfriend, you just cried. Did me and you watch the same thing? Yeah. But for whatever reason, maybe your standard is different, or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But yeah, you got to get out of your own way. My job is not to slow myself down, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Always say, like, if I don't reach a certain goal or dream, I don't want it to be my fault. If something else happens outside of my control, that's great, but I don't want to be the reason why I didn't accomplish something.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, this has been such a great conversation. I'm like, I have to re-listen to this so I can take notes from all the great things you told us. I feel like you really represent, we talked about disrupting the defaults. You were doing that in every area of your life, and you're doing it boldly. Even knowing you since I was a teenager and even before then, it's been fun to even see your confidence grow as like mine has grown, and I'm still not as far along on the journey, but definitely trying to get there. And I just appreciate all you've done to pour into me, all the other people in your life. And thanks for sharing everything you know with the audience today.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Rachel. I think if I were to leave you with one thing is you can.
Mm,
You can. You fill
yeah.
in the blank, whatever that thing is, you can. But you've got to believe that, and you've got to do the work to get there. And like we both just said, like, you got to stay out of your own way.
Yes. Stay out of your own way. Don't do all the things I do that Ebony has helped me with. So where can people connect with you? People are, I'm sure, going to love hearing your story. How can they follow along with what you're doing?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Ebony, Ebony Speaks. The number 2 and the letter U. Ebony Speaks to You. You can find me on LinkedIn and follow me at Ebony Wyatt, Wyatt. Or you could find me via my website, ebonywyatt.com. That's EBONYWYATT.com.
All right. I will link all of that in the show notes and on the website. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks again, Ebony.
All right. Thanks, Rachel.